Hey everybody, it's Shelby Myers in the Fox 10 News Now Center. So I just wanted to come to you guys right now before a press conference starts. It's supposed to start any second now at 10 a.m. and we are waiting on that. AlDOT officials are going to be explaining more about what is going on with the Mobile River Bridge toll. Of course, yesterday we were told that AlDOT is going to give a $6 toll per trip. That's going to be on drivers. There would be a $90 a month pass for those who frequent back and forth, and that would total about $1,080 a year for drivers. So we're going to get more details on that any second now, and that's what we're waiting on. Fox 10 News has a crew there as AlDOT officials are waiting to bring us up to date on what's going to happen. They're going to answer some questions that we have. Of course, a lot of people want to know, that we talk to, want to know why $6, why that amount, why so much, and we're hoping to get some of those questions answered. AlDOT officials, of course, introduced the plan originally saying it would be $3 to $6 per trip. And with little federal money available, officials said there's no way that they're going to be able to finance this $2.1 billion project without the tolls. So that is one of the reasons why it's going to be $6 per driver. But this is something, like I said again yesterday, that we interviewed multiple different people. They're pretty upset about this. A lot of people may live in Mobile, work in Baldwin County, or vice versa. So just having to pay that every day is something that they're worried about. Even the monthly charge, if they choose to go that route, at $90 a month, is something that they still think is a little high as well. So, of course, we know even today, traffic every day in the summer is pretty much backed up. So it's something that a lot of people agree is needed for this bridge to expand, to be bigger, to accommodate as many drivers are going back and forth to the beaches or to Baldwin County or into Mobile. But it's just the price that a lot of people are worried about. Some opposition coming from elected officials on this, and we've talked to Auditor Jim Ziegler and the Mobile County State Legislative Delegation who are in opposition to this. The bridge, of course, would be open in 2025 if we do get that. So, okay, we're taking that meeting live right now. I'm seeing that it has just started. I've just been told, so give me a second here. We're going to swap over to that meeting so you guys can listen in.
Rotation one by one with a 10-minute or so availability in the next room over with the stations and then the other members of the media that are here for a one-on-one opportunity for some question and answer. You can get sound bites and on-camera stuff at that point. And we'll go Fox, NBC 15, WKRG, WEAR, and then we'll go with you, Guy. John, if you want to do anything after that, and then the magazine. So, with that, Mr. Cooper, would you like to make any opening comments before we begin? Okay. Edwin?
All right, thanks, Tony, and good morning, everybody. And like Tony said, I'll provide an update, and just to kind of start everybody off, I'll go over a quick history of the project. The Mobile River Bridge project has been ongoing since 1997. And from 1997 to 2014, we worked on feasibility studies. We did project scoping. We looked at many different alternates. We started off with 14 alternatives. We worked and narrowed that down to the 4 build alternatives and the no build alternative that was presented in the draft EIS in 2014. And in that document, we identified the preferred alternative of B prime. From 2014 to 2017, we did a storm surge model on the Bayway, and with updated federal regulations from storms that happened back in 2005, we learned that the Bayway would need to be replaced due to storm surge impacts from the 100-year storm surge level. From that, we started looking at alternative delivery methods, and from reviewing those methods, we came across that this project would suit the P3 model, which is a public-private partnership. We did additional environmental studies. We held industry forum down at the convention center, had a lot of attendance, 350 people, and several different companies attended. Shortly after that, we worked on releasing a request for qualifications to get interested teams who'd be interested to work on the proposal for the project. Also during that time frame, we worked on getting fast lane and infralane grants. And within the past year, we took the proposals that we received from the RFQ and shortlisted to 3 teams that we've been working with for the past year. We've been working on developing a RFP, which is some contract documents that these teams will use to come up with a bid and proposal on the new project. We prepared a supplemental draft EIS that was recently signed, where shortly after that we held public hearings. And also we've been working through the U.S. DOT Build America Bureau to work to secure federal funds with TIFIA loans, private activity bonds, and infralane grant. And so things that we know that we've been working on the project since 1997 is that a viable corridor between Mobile and Baldwin County is necessary for economic progress and to maintain a high quality of life. And from what local residents kind of know about almost on a daily basis is that during peak times there's the opportunity for crashes, and during the peak times there's opportunity for delays. And so within the past year, from June of last year to May of this year, there's been you would anticipate 75 minutes of delay due to a crash for peak hours. And what I mean by peak times is that's the back and forth times coming and going from work. During that time period, there were 132 crashes, which means that the public would face a 25% chance of being delayed from a crash. Also, we can expect delays just due to congestion. And during that time frame, we measured at least around a 30-minute delay just due to congestion during rush hour. And again, during that same time period, we measured 161 related delays during that time frame, which equated to drivers facing a 33% chance of being delayed, again, going to and from work. And you know, things will only get worse. You know, currently we have have a daily traffic count of 75,000 vehicles per day. That is the yearly average that we've measured in 2018. Originally, the Wallace Tunnel was designed to handle 36,000 vehicles per day. And by the time we get to 2040, we're going to anticipate having 95,000 vehicles per day going along the corridor. And that's equivalent to summer peak traffic. I know we went over it during our presentation a few months ago, but you know, the 4th of July, Labor Day, summer weekends, peak travel season, we see 100,000 vehicles or more going along the I-10 corridor. You know, other crossings, Bankhead, Cochran Africtown Bridge, and the Causeway will only become more congested as I-10 continues to fill up with traffic. And so the congestion problem will only spread. And what we're working on is we're at least 6 years away from relief. That 6 years is 1 year for us to continue down the path that we're going to finalize contract documents, and then the 5-year construction time frame. Again, to kind of build on what I was touching on earlier with the Bayway, new federal regulations with AASHTO said that new bridges are required to be elevated above the 100-year storm surge. And from the storm surge level 3 storm surge analysis that we did, the majority of the Bayway would be impacted by this storm surge. And again, this is from lessons learned from Pensacola, Biloxi, and New Orleans, who all experienced major damage and loss to their structures due to storm surge. And I don't know if any of y'all remember, but back in 2005, during Hurricane Katrina, we experienced storm surge impacts to our ramps at Midday, and had to rebuild those ramps due to the displacement from storm surge. And in doing this increased our project cost by $1 billion. So our project cost is estimated to be $2.1 billion. That includes the Bayway, all the interchanges, and the bridge over the Mobile River. FHWA and the state do not have the ability to funding to cover this cost. No additional funding has been provided for this project. The state will still have to provide a subsidy as part of this P3 partnership. Right now, we do not know that amount of the subsidy. We will not know that until we receive the proposals from the 3 shortlisted teams. We anticipate this to be in the hundreds of millions of dollars, and we would probably fund that through the Garvey bonds. And what that is the state match will likely be borrowing money. So from the industry forum that we had in August of 2017, we learned that we had a viable P3 project. Again, we received proposals from teams, and we shortlisted it down to 3 teams, and then moved into the RFP stage of the project in February 2018. Our shortlisted teams that we've been working with is I-10 Mobility Partners, Mobile River Bridge Group, and Gulf Coast Connectors. We understand that tolling is not everybody's favorite subject. Tolling is the direction that the federal government is heading to finance large projects like the Mobile River Bridge project, just because of the challenge of being able to fund these multi-billion-dollar projects. President Trump's proposed infrastructure plan relies heavily on tolling, working with the $200 billion federal funds to spur investment for up to a $2 trillion in private funds. We've applied for all federal funding, including infra and fast lane grants. Our first applications, we were asking for $500 million. From what we learned from talking to US DOT, we then asked for $250 million, and were not selected. We just sent in our application earlier this year and asked for $150 million. We received a lot of positive feedback from the Build America Bureau, and we feel very good about this ask. And we hope to be able to hear back on the selection of these infra grants later in the month.
Let me interject right quickly. Our history with these applications, we weren't selected during 2 application cycles. We feel much better about the current application cycle. There are probably 20 times the number of applications per the available funding through those grant programs nationwide from the states. And at a $500 million and even a $250 million level, those would have been, $500 million certainly would have been an unprecedented sized award. $250 million might have been pushing that same level. So 150 million might be closer to the sweet spot for us to be selected.
And again, this grant would help reduce the public subsidy from ALDOT, allowing for the possibility to buy down a little bit on the tolling amount, but it will not eliminate the need for tolling. This chart just kind of helps explain all the different pieces to the P3 funding and financing source. Again, there'll be the public subsidy, like what Tony was going over. We receive an infra grant that will help with the project. There's the private equity that one of these teams will bring into the project. We'll have the private activity bonds, which are tax exempt bonds, and then the federal loan, which is the TIFIA program, which we've been working with the Build America Bureau. So now to kind of touch on where we're at with the tolling policy. This isn't anything that is final. It is what we're considering. It's where we're at. We're still looking at the tolling policy and how it would work with our financial structure that I just went over on the slide previously. But right now what we're looking at is a monthly unlimited pass of $90. Again, unlimited trips. You can use the facility as many times as you want. One thing that we learned during the public comment period is that the majority of people use the facility 40 times a month. And in being able to do the 90, and that makes sense because when you typically look at a month, there's 20 working days in a month. And you multiply that by 2, going to and from work, that brings down that toll rate to $2.25. So we really think this would be a big benefit to the frequent user. It requires an active transponder and only covers Class 1 vehicles that I'll go over here shortly. And it is a prepaid per month. We also have another frequent user discount. It's kind of similar to the one we proposed at the public hearings, but this one, the first 4 trips, you would pay the full cost of the toll, but the 5th trip and on, you would receive a 5% discount. A 15% discount. This requires, again, an active transponder, and again, would only qualify to Class 1 vehicles. And where we see this frequent user discount best benefiting the frequent user is during the segmented portions of the project, and then also for that user that may not need to use the project as many times to get the value out of the $90 limited pass. And just to go over what a Class 1 vehicle is in our tolling policy, it is a passenger car, a pickup truck, a minivan, SUV, or a motorcycle. And this is also not pulling a trailer. If you're pulling a trailer, you would bump up to our Class 2. And if you'd like to look into the different classes that we have, that's called out in our supplemental draft EIS that we have online. So again, just to kind of go into a little more detail of these tolling segments, we will come out with a $6 toll rate to use the full facility. That's going from Virginia Street all the way to Eastern Shore. Whether you're using the new Mobile River Bridge or the Wallace Tunnel. Like I said, going into these segments, we have a segment which is basically the Bayway from East Tunnel Interchange all the way to Daphne. And this is for those users who may live south of I-10, who would just get on the Bayway. They get off to go through Bankhead Tunnel, or they go north to use the Cochran-Africtown Bridge, and that toll rate would be $4.25. Again, you may only need to use the other part to Mid-Bay. Maybe you just need to go to Virginia Street to Mid-Bay, or go through Wallace Tunnel and go to Canal Street through Mid-Bay. That toll rate would be $3.75 for any of those users who are north of I-10, get on the Causeway, use Mid-Bay to get to downtown Mobile, or continue heading west. Mid-Bay to Daphne, anybody just needing to get to anywhere on the Causeway, can use the segment from Mid-Bay to Daphne, and that's a $2.25 toll. And then going into our shorter segments from East Tunnel Interchange to Mid-Bay, that'd be $2. And Canal Street to East Tunnel Interchange, that'd be $3. And each one of these segments would qualify as a trip. Again, to touch on our tolled route. Our tolled route is the new Mobile River Bridge project that will go over the Mobile River and the new Bayway. Also going through the Wallace Tunnel. That is our tolled route. And the toll-free route, it will be the Causeway, the Causeway on US 90-98. Bakehead Tunnel will continue to be free, and then Cochran-Africtown Bridge will be a free route. And also what we have in our tolling policy is we will have a buy-down provision in our project documents with the teams. This will allow the opportunity where if additional funds become available, we can buy down the proposed toll rate. Tolling will be all electronic. There will be no toll booths. So transponders will be available for purchase prior to the project being complete. And if you do not have a transponder, it will be tolled by plate, to where it'll take a picture of the person's license plate and send a bill in the mail. Toll collection will not begin until the project is completely open to drivers, which means we are not doing any early tolling, and once the project reaches substantial completion is what we're anticipating late 2025, that is when tolling is likely to begin. Our next steps, right now we're working on finalizing our final EIS and ROD document to send to FHWA for approval. We anticipate that early to mid-August. From there, we will work to issue our final request for proposals and give those documents to the teams, to where they'll work on submitting us their proposal on the project December of this year. After that, we'll review the proposals and select a team in March of 2020. Shortly after that, we will negotiate with the team, and construction will begin late 2020 and be completed by 2025. And again, we've been working on this project for a very long time. We know the benefits of this project, and we understand that a viable corridor between Mobile and Baldwin County is necessary, and that this public-private partnership that we're doing is the best way to deliver the project. Thank you.
You want to make any comments before we transition? Let's go there. Any questions about anything Edwin presented that needs to be clarified before we move to one-on-one interviews?
Will the toll, whatever the toll...
Would you identify yourself, please?
I'm sorry, David Preston with BamaPolitics.com. My question is, will the tolls for the businesses in the area, either they do pay the monthly pass or they do it toll by plate, will the tolls be tax deductible on their business expenses?
I don't know.
It's been a long time since I practiced. county. But by definition, a business expense, if it is a business expense, is deductible.
Okay.
The question might be, is it a business expense? But you use the term business expense, that would be deductible.
Okay.
If it's a business crossing, it would be a business expense, I believe.
Any other questions specifically related to anything that Edwin presented? And we'll, if you need to ask further questions, we can loop you into the Q&A that we'll do separately from this part.
Yeah, just a clarification on the Class 1 vehicles. Are government vehicles exempt from that? I think law enforcement vehicles, as part of the plan, were, but I wasn't sure the extent to which the state or local government.
The tolling statute that's in place under the Toll Road Bridge and Tunnel Authority, that piece of legislation does address vehicles that are exempt. Law enforcement vehicles would be exempt. And there are provisions that other vehicles could be considered on a case-by-case basis.
Like school buses with children.
Right. So, okay, so with that, as we had discussed earlier, we'll transition now into the one-on-one interviews. We'll begin with Fox 10. We'll go across the hall for that, and then we'll move through the list in order for one-on-one availability with the director and Edwin. And if you just want to hold in this room, we'll keep this at about 10 minutes per station, per group, and I'll come get you when your slot rolls up.
This one you want to stream?
Press conference. We're going to get one-on-one. We need to get.
Okay, so the meeting is wrapping up right now. If you've been listening in for any time at all, they're about to talk individually with, of course, Fox 10 News is there. They're going to answer some questions individually. We're going to have that a little bit later for you. But I just kind of wanted to come back on and recap what was talked about here. Of course, this is what you were watching was an ALDOT meeting with some of the locals here. Fox 10 News, of course, in the room as well. So what they talked about today was, of course, there was a study done by ALDOT in 2018 about how bad the traffic jams are at the Wallace Tunnel, especially. They talked about how there's a 25% chance of drivers being delayed because of a crash. There was a 33% chance of traffic jams delaying drivers at the Wallace Tunnel as well. And so how they talked about how the road, the Mobile River Bridge right now is not able to hold as many people that are driving on it per day. And then they went into how there's not federal or state funding enough to cover the $2.1 billion project. Even though they've applied for some grants, they're still waiting for some other to get that money as well. But that's why there is a toll in place, and that is why there would be a $6 toll on you, the driver. Of course, there would be a frequent discount. That would be the $90 per month for unlimited passes if you chose to go that route, which would total just over $1,000 a year for you, the driver, if you went that way. Then they also detailed after your fifth trip, you would get a 15% discount off, but you would still be paying the $6 for your first 4 trips. That is not set in stone right now. They're still talking that over. They're still going to be talking about that for a little bit longer. And then a lot of people ask, would this hold up traffic if you've got these tolling booths? Well, that would not be in question. There would be no tolling booths at all. There would be a system that you would have in your car. There would be cameras that would take pictures of your car as it drives across the way, and then you would get sent in the mail your toll. Also, another question, will there be early tolling? And they answered that with a no. ALDOT officials said that you would not be tolled. This tolling would not start until 2025 when the project is expected to be complete. They want to start construction in late 2020, and then they hope to have it done by 2025. So those were some of the questions, some of the things that were talked about there as well. They also laid out the segmented tolls and how much you could pay for that if you were driving from Virginia Street to Daphne, from Canal Street to Daphne, the East Tunnel to Daphne, in parts of that would be the $6 toll. But if you drove from like Mid-Bay to Daphne, Canal Street to the tunnel, it would be a little over $4 toll. So it would be segmented. Again, this is not set in stone either. They're still going over that, and they're still in the early process of deciding where those segmented tolls would be. But that's something else that AlDOT officials talked about there as well. Now, the Causeway, the Bankhead Tunnel, and the Cochrane Africatown Bridge would all be free routes. Those would not be tolled if you wanted to get away from the Mobile River Bridge, the Wallace Tunnel, and go those ways as well. So those are just some of the things that were talked about today in that meeting. A lot of people commenting on Facebook, of course, no tolls, hashtag no tolls. A lot of people upset about this, especially with it being $6 per trip. We talked to some people yesterday also upset about that, because we know living here on the Gulf Coast, a lot of people, may work in Mobile, live in Baldwin County, or vice versa. So it would affect just so many people. It would affect travelers who are going to the beaches during the summer months especially. So that's what a lot of you are saying. Some people are asking, why can't the lottery pay for this? If we were to get a lottery, of course we know with legislation this year that lottery bills were turned down. Those did not pass through. Those are some of the questions that you guys are asking, and we're going to have more questions answered tonight for you on Fox News starting at 4 o'clock. We'll have that again more as well at 5. So make sure you're tuning in and you're listening to that, and we're going to have a full report for you then. So watch Fox 10 News at 4 and 5, of course 9 and 10 as well. We'll see you then.